welcome to my live stream. December 6th, 2020. It's been a couple of weekends that I haven't been able to. We've changed locations, so I had to get internet, etc. all up. So before I begin, please subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button so we can spread the doctrine of Spiritism far and wide. And believe me, the world needs it right at this moment. We need to have faith in the spirit world. We need to have faith in the plans laid out to us by Jesus Christ, the leader of the heavens around the earth. So today we are talking more about the book Violets on the Window. Patricia, who died when she was 19, died at an early age. Her family were spiritists, and therefore she was quite prepared for what she was to be found when she went to heaven. And she went to the San Sebastian spiritual colony above the city San Sebastian in Minas Gerais, a state in Brazil. Now, this chapter we're talking about, she's writing about her vacation. And so, yes, people have leisure time, people have vacations, people, conversely, people work. They do all sorts of things in heaven. Heaven is similar to earth, but heaven is perfect. That's, that is your main reason. That's your main difference. Is think of the, when you think, oh, I have to work in heaven. I'm not an angel who just sits there and does nothing for all eternity. Of course, the spirits have said, if we did nothing for all eternity, that indeed would be hell. So yes, you work, but think of the best job you ever had. Think of the most fulfilling things you did and working with the best people. I know I've had one or two. It never lasts for long here on earth, but it does exist, and it's a wonderful situation. It's a wonderful feeling to be with people who you like and you mutually support. And in heaven, repeat, you are who you are. When you die, you just get rid of this physical body and you become the body of how you think you should look. That is your paraspiritual body. And your mind affects how that looks. And in fact, as Patricia said in earlier chapters, this whole city in heaven was created by thought, by the thoughts of higher spirits. It is what we would call a subjective world where your thinking changes the environment, not the environment is set like here on earth. We are in an objective universe where the wall is the wall. No matter how hard we think we don't want that wall, it's there and we can't go through it. We're in heaven. You can think and you can travel by thought. There's no speed of light, speed limit in heaven. So let's get right into what Patricia said about her vacation in heaven. This is what is awaiting you. So that's what she wrote. The meeting was held in a conference room at the school, and all the teachers were all on time. Mrs. Darcy presided over the meeting. She is the headmaster of the school that teaches how to read and write. Yes, people do need to learn how to read and write in heaven. Some people go to heaven who are illiterate, and I'm sure it happens less now since it's probably 10, 15 years or 20 years, I think, after this book was written. But still, it exists. So I'll continue reading. Always kind and friendly, she greeted us smiling. Good afternoon. We are coming to the end of our school year. As always, we'll be having a celebration for the graduating students. So then she wrote, all the courses at the colony have a time schedule. Most follow the same calendar year as the school for incarnates in the material world. Incidentally, over here, time zones are synchronized with the physical world. The colonies and rescue stations follow the time zones of the physical space to which they are linked. For example, a colony in Europe in a space above Austria follows the same time zone as Austria. In other words, the colony is in the spiritual space and the country is in the physical space. San Sebastian colony above the city of São Sebastião de Paraíso follows the Brazilian time zone. When it is 2 p.m. in the physical city, it is also 2 p.m. in the colony. Here we have schedules with appropriate time for everything, and everyone complies with them. To have order, one must have discipline. That is the right time for working, and there is a right time for studying, etc. Now let me talk about time. So they conform to the time on the physical world in these lower colonies in heaven. But as they go higher and higher, there really is no passage of time as we know it here on Earth. Passage of time means we grow older. If a flower is cut, it decays. Trees grow, they go older, they die. Iron rusts, right? Steel, weakens over for eons, decades. In the spiritual world, there is no concept of time. But since people on these lower levels of heaven are still mentally tied to Earth, they try to keep them on the same schedule. So here in São Sebastian, when it's dawn in São Sebastian in Brazil, on the physical world, it's dawn in São Sebastian in the spirit colony. As you go higher, the ties that bind people to the Earth get looser and looser, and therefore they start not caring about time, and it becomes sunny. There is no night and day. It becomes the same temperature and the same type of brightness. Of course, it gets brighter every level you go up. That's because there's more intensity of the love of God. So things change. So when you think about heaven, I talk about heaven here, and you think, well, there's day and night and all this. Yes, it is. But think of this as we do in elementary school, right? With kindergartners go in there, they don't really do much work. They just socialize. First grade, more and more, and the academic work becomes very slightly changed as you go up and up to get you ready. They don't strike fear in the heart of a 6-year-old by saying, "Oh, here's calculus for you." No, that's beyond their mental capacity. And the same thing for us spirits, us immature spirits in this planet of atonement, where we have to pay for our past wrongs, and we're learning to modify our character and our attitudes for the better, take out the primitive emotions and replace those with higher emotions: love, charity, fraternity. So therefore, they are very understanding, and they're very careful with people, good people who go to heaven. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be an angel in training. You don't have to be Mother Teresa. No, you don't have to be in a cave somewhere. In fact, the spirit world doesn't want that. And you don't even have to believe in God, right? You don't have to do that. It helps a lot. But, as the spirits have told us, people who even are atheists and who are good people and try to do the right thing and treat everyone with respect have the right to be in heaven. That is the narrow door. They're not expecting you to be baptized or eat a certain thing or wear something. No, you should be a good person for the majority of the time. We all have our drawbacks and our weaknesses, and they know that. And that's why there's many levels of heaven, because you come to Earth to repair those character defects that you yourself identify. So let me continue on reading. All courses begin at the beginning of the year and normally finish at the end of the year. Now, when she said they go to like time zones and it's calendar years for schools, I know in United States it starts September to May or June, but of course in Brazil, as she's writing this in Portuguese, it's been translated in English. School starts. Could be, after all, summer is in December, January, or the time frame. It's opposite of the northern hemisphere. School starts in January and then ends at November. So that's why she's saying this. Might throw you off a bit. I'll continue on. It is rare for a literary course to be completed in 1 year, unless someone just wants to learn how to read and write. Then 1 year is enough. Usually the course takes 3 years, and in that time the students obtain enough knowledge to complete elementary school. However, there are those who have more difficulty than others and need more time. Those who so wish complete the course, though some drop out, but only in special circumstances. Those who graduate have several options. they can continue to study or dedicate themselves to other activities, contributing with more hours to community service or undertaking useful tasks. Every student works. Now, you might ask, okay, well, this person was in heaven and they have difficulty learning to read and write. So let's talk about that for a second. In our Western culture, we believe we have this thing that all men are created equal. And when we say all men are created equal, we don't say that, I can play football like a football player or dunk baskets or be as smart as a scientist. That, we're only equal. Our goal is to be equal under the law. Now, in the spirit world, we all are truly created equal. These people who are having difficulty reading and writing, they will themselves, they have the capability to be as astute as anyone else. They just have to focus on that. Most probably they haven't focused on that. They have been focused on other things that could be focused on. Their spirituality, their emotion. They may just be slightly lazy at the time and just enjoy life in heaven. But they have the capability of being a genius if they want to study music and then be a genius in music in the spirit world and come back and carry that on in the physical world. So that you are truly created equal. There is nothing stopping you from anything. There is no disability whatsoever in the spirit world. These people have chosen to focus on other things. Now they want to focus on reading and writing and more other intellectual pursuits. They may be far superior in their emotional quotient and their ability to love and emphasize. It's the same reason why the spirit world divided us into two sexes. The spirits have told Reverend G. Bao Owen that we could have been on earth and been asexual. But what the spirit world wanted us to learn is they wanted us to learn the different passive and aggressive shades of behavior from the male and female point of view. And that's why we have relationships, because they want people to be together so they can understand, the man can understand how the women will handle circumstances, and they want the women to understand how the men handle circumstances. And it's really a heuristic. What I mean heuristic is a tool to help people learn easier. It's a way to solve a problem. And this is why we've been divided into two sexes. And of course, sex, the act of sex, becomes less and less important as you go higher and higher in heaven. And in fact, even in this level, low level heaven, that's really something that people just aren't that enthused about, because there are more important and more wonderful, and feelings are just amazing when you are into that love of heaven. So this is how the spirit world works. We're always being educated, just as if you were a teacher or you have children, and you're always thinking how to show your children the best way to live and best way to act. So we carry on. Okay. So we exchange ideas about the best teaching method, and the graduation festivities were finalized with a few quick comments. Continuing the meeting, Mrs. Dearsey said, "Vacations are getting near, and we must think about the best way to spend them." I was surprised, and I think I showed it. Kindly, Mrs. Dearsey explained, directing her remarks at me, the novice in the group. "Patricia, this is the first time you worked with us. The others have been here for a while. We know you won't come back next year. That's unfortunate, but we know you'll be taking a course on how to live in the spirit world. We thank you for your help, and we hope you've enjoyed working with us." Then Patricia wrote, "We have vacations just like the incarnates do, only not as much. All the workers take time to relax after a certain period of work, to unwind or to tend to personal matters. Usually it lasts 2 weeks, a maximum of 3, but sometimes just a few days. Students and teachers have vacations at Christmas time. It's a chance for the students to rest after studying so hard. Although there is a small party every year for those who have completed the course. We, the teachers, deserve our vacations, although I know we don't stay idle. We take advantage of the free time to visit relatives, both incarnate and discarnate. We also help in extra rescue work for those souls who are suffering. It's only a few days in this break, since we'll be able to work in the second week of January. So they'll take probably the last week of December and 2 weeks in January off. And the spirit world has said this in other writings, is after they encourage you to take vacations and to rest and relax and to recharge your batteries. In fact, there are centers, kind of regeneration centers for people who have been on missions, like she said, with helping the souls in the lower zone or even helping the souls on earth. It's a very exhausting work. Imagine you are going down, you are in this heaven with people are all nice and their auras are pretty well bright and reflecting. And then you go down into earth, and as Andre Louis said one time, he wrote as he went down into Rio de Janeiro, he saw all the darkness around him, right? People in buses just full of dark feelings and primitive emotions. That can get exhausting. And so when people come back out of the physical sphere, or within that realm of influence of the physical sphere, they need rest and relaxation. They need rejuvenation. And they have special centers where they have waters and light and music to help you recover from your journeys, not only just on earth, but in the lower zone and the dark abyss, which is below the crust of the earth. So it's a whole world there. This is the exciting part of bringing you this information. There is, if you think about heaven, before when you just knew about Christianity, it's always a little fuzzy. Spiritism brings definition. It tells you the process. It tells you why you are here. It gives you a glimpse of how you can prepare yourself for your next journey in this spirit world, which is, by the way, the real world. This world, the physical world we live in, where we get old, we get sick, we go through emotional trauma. This is the tough school. This is the campus of the ups and downs and the hard knocks. And this is temporary. Think of your life as a immortal soul, and then think of your 80 years, let's say, on average, on Earth. That's nothing. It's almost nothing compared to what you're going to live. Let's carry on. So then she says, I've been working for such a short time. I don't want to be idle, having nothing to do, I said. Well, Mrs. Darcy said, well, if you want to continue working at the end of the curriculum, ask your friends for advice. If however, you really want to enjoy yourself during your vacation, you'll have a chance to see how beautiful Christmas is at the colony. Still, the reason for this meeting is also to discuss the students' evaluations. You will do it according to the progress each one has made, so that the next year we can group them better in order to improve their learning process. By the time the meeting was over, we had accomplished much. When I left the school, I went to talk to Federico and commented, Federico, I never thought discarding spirits would take vacations. And then he said, not all of us take them. I never had one. I don't need it, since working is part of me. I try to be useful even during a leave of absence, like now. Still, everyone who works has a right to rest. The counselors at the colony organize work so that everyone has some free time. During this period, we're free to spend it any way we want within the rules of the colony. Many spend this time with their loved ones in either the material or the spiritual plane, visiting and often helping them. Many do something else or visit other places. These vacations are important for the neophytes at the colony, especially the youngsters. It helps their adjustment. And then Patricia said, well, I don't want to be idle during this period, but I don't know what to do or what I can do. Federico smiled and said, it's good for you to learn how to do many different things, so you can devote your time in the future to whatever is more useful to you and to others. I hardly slept, so I had lots of free time. So I asked Federico, may I help you some more? He says, sure, I'm happy to have you with me. Could I really be useful? When we want it, we're able to, he answered, encouraging me. Now, she said, I hardly slept. Again, when you think of it, if you think of a day on Earth, 24 hours, well, when you hardly sleep, you've got 24 hours. And in fact, as you go higher and higher, you don't need to sleep and you don't need to eat. You gather your nutrients from the sun, from the light, and from the water. Now, the people in the lower levels of heaven still like to eat. They like that pleasure. It's one of the pleasures that they had on Earth, and they still identify that. But as you go higher and higher, in fact, as Patricia learned, you don't need to. So, this is all a slow process for those of us who are tied to the material world. So that's really one of the important lessons, is there should be nothing shocking you when you go to heaven. It should be a pleasant experience. You'll be disoriented for a while. After all, you're being the reverse of being born. You were confused when you came out of your mother's womb, and you're a little bit confused when you get out of your physical body. But if you've been a relatively good person, you'll have assistance leaving your body. Now, Patricia keeps writing, the school was in a festive mood on the day of the closing celebrations. Certificates would be given out in the afternoon. Sincere and contagious happiness was around. The certificate is not considered a proof. The important thing is what one learns. Yet it is still a victory, and those who receive it are very happy. So let's talk about that when they give a certificate. So in this lower level of heaven, people are given certificates. Why? Because they expect them. That is what they're used to in the physical world. Now, the way heaven is organized, there are schools and colonies, and then in the major cities, there are higher and higher schools, and there are colleges in which you learn. And if you are very serious about ascending in heaven, you go through a series of schools. And then as you kind of naturally migrate to one of the major cities on the plane, the level of heaven that you are on. When you graduate, when you graduate from one level of heaven to the next, it's not like, okay, you need to go to college for 2 years or 5 semesters or 4 quarters, whatever it is, and you graduate because you've learned everything you can. No, it doesn't work that way. You graduate when the higher spirits believe you are ready. Now, to go from one level of heaven to the next isn't that you must get X number of classes done. You must improve yourself all around, like a Renaissance man, right? You improve yourself with love, fraternity, charity. That's half the equation, probably more than half. It's your attitude and character is more important. You can be, a very intelligent, know everything about the spirit world, but you can still be kind of off-putting the people and abrupt and not caring. You're not going to go anywhere. And in fact, there was a story about this man who had just recently died. And he had done good things, but he had a severe mental attitude of what he thought heaven was and who he thought should be in heaven. And he died, and he was wandering around, and he met a spirit. And the spirit says, "Can I help you?" He goes, "Well, I'm not quite sure, because he goes, I think I'm in heaven, but it's not the heaven I knew. I haven't seen anybody that I used to know that came over." And he says, "Well, that is because you cannot see them. They came to visit you, but your mind is too stubborn. Your mind is too closed. You feel that only perfect people can make it to heaven. That is not true. There are all sorts of graduations. You're going to have to let go of your previous ideals and absorb new ones. Now, your wife is on a higher level than you are. She had passed away before he passed away. She may not be as intellectual as you, but she is emotionally much more mature than you. And that kind of turned the light on for this guy. In that, he had been kind of severe in his thinking. I have been there too, of course. And so therefore, when you go from one level to another, it's a combination of intellectual and emotional and alterations to your character. Now, people always write to me and say, this reincarnation, I don't want to reincarnate. I hate my life on earth. Well, a lot of people reincarnate so they can change their character and their personality. And they call that, you hear that a lot in spiritual literature, personality. Personality, what I believe, this is my interpretation, denotes a logical construct that contains us, right? Because as a pure spirit, let me bring this picture up. As a pure spirit, we are formless, right? We are more like a ball of light. The paraspirit is what gives us our apparent form in what our mind is and what we think our form looks like. Let me bring this up here. So we have our temporary physical body, which, of course, we leave and decays when we leave it. Now, in the spirit world, where Patricia is, people have their paraspirit. If you die when you're 80 or 90, when you go to heaven, you'll get younger. You'll get how you think you should look, maybe 30, 20s, or 40s. If you die when you're 23, you may get a little bit older because in the past lives you felt like you want to be in your mid-30s. That's the way it works. But the paraspirit is our form, right? It contains many things. It's also a connection from our spirit to our body. And the paraspirit actually goes into every cell of your body and learns to control that. That's why when the paraspirit leaves, you are truly dead. People who've had near-death experiences, their paraspirit is still connected to their body. They are not dead, even though our current present medical science, seeing no brain waves or anything like that, thinks they're dead. No, they're not. They're not dead till the paraspirit leaves you. But that logical construct, that personality that is us, those ingrained senses, that is the spirit. And the spirit connects to the paraspirit, which connects to the physical body when we are here on earth. Paraspirit does many other things. Every language you've ever spoke when you were in reincarnated on earth or other planets is memorized and recorded in paraspirit. So when someone talks to you, let's say, in your previous life, you were in the Philippines, spoke Tagalog, and in the spirit world, you come and someone speak, and in your current life you just died from, you spoke French. Well, if someone comes and speaks Tagalog, paraspirit will automatically translate it, and you'll hear it in whatever language you're used to. Marvelous. It's the complexity of the spirit world is just marvelous to behold, and there's just so much. That's why it's so exciting to study Spiritism and to learn really what makes up a spirit, because there's just so much there. And in fact, I show this in my book, Spirit and the Spirit Universe. And I talk about what is a spirit? How do spirits rise? What are the attributes of a spirit? How do they get more tools in their toolbox? A spirit is just, and then the higher the spirit becomes more and more energy. The lower spirits have a lower ratio of energy to matter, and the higher spirits have a higher and higher and higher ratio. When you finally get to someone like Jesus Christ, who has a maybe pure energy, I'm not quite sure, but actually one spirit said, one time he was in this this meeting hall, and Jesus came by, and he was the shape of a little child, and what he did is he gave each person like a little pansy, and he kind of held one end of it, and the other person held the other end of it. And then kind of he said is when they did that with Jesus, he felt like Jesus knew him, and then he also felt like whatever problem he had been working on that's been kind of it hasn't been able to reconcile was solved. And that each person who had touched that, they had that connection with Jesus, felt that. Now, he also said, Jesus had to give us that little flower, because if I had touched him, who knows what would have happened? He was so much energy. I mean, I might have just been blowing the smithereens. So it's really understanding the spirit world is it's amazing. And remember, in the spirit world, it's a subjective environment. Thought is action. Thought is everything. Here, we have, if we want to build a house, we got to build a house. In the spirit world, you get together with friends or maybe yourself. You think about the model, what you want to be, and then you create from universal fluid, you create that house. So let me go back to the book, which is very interesting. Now, so then she said, I thank my colleagues and Mrs. Darcy for the caring attention and assistance I had received during the short time I had been there. I talked to Mrs. Darcy for a long time. She told me she was going to visit her family and afterwards would join a group of volunteers that would be helping drug addicts. During my vacation, she finished, I always do this kind of work. Those who get lost in addiction are true slaves, needy of freedom. I really enjoy this kind of work. Still, I find a greater self-fulfillment in teaching since I love doing it. I like it too, I said, but I'm more interested in learning right now. Mrs. Darcy, I'm very grateful to you. Thank you for everything. So when Mrs. Darcy said she wants to help addicts, so I've talked about when you go down into the earth, right, you usually have a blueprint, a plan for your life. And I was watching a talk, and I forgot what it was. It was on YouTube. And this person was talking about, scientifically, everything is predetermined, right? We have no free will. And I like to just take off a tangent for a second and talk about that. And this is what the spirits tell us. On this planet of atonement, we have a blueprint, we have a plan. And in those plans, the major events are predetermined. We do not have free will to say, oh, I'm not going to go work in that place, or I'm not going to marry that person, or not be in an accident on the 5th of September, whatever date. Those things will happen. Those major events will happen because that's in our blueprint. But where we have our free will is in our analysis of the episode of what we are in and our reaction to it. Are we still nice to everybody? Do we understand? Did we get out of a bad marriage with honor, even though the other person took advantage of us and were mean to us? Did we try to do it as well as we could? Did we, all those things, that is free will. Those are our moral choices. The Spirit gave Jivo, and I think it was Henri Louis, an example of complete predetermination of free will. Because imagine a person was predestined to serve time in prison. And is that predetermination? He has no choice. And then he was said, well, look, yes, it was predetermined he'd spend time in prison. But what is not predetermined is, does that person help other prisoners? Does he help the warden? Does he organize things? Is he there for the good of others? Or is he there just to serve time and be still a dishonest person? That is your free will. Now, you do not go through life, your immortal life, like that. As you go to higher and higher planets, you have a wider range of what you pick you want to do. After all, remember, we're like elementary school children. You know, let elementary school children pick their subjects? No, it would be eating dessert, right? That's what I would have picked. No. As we get more emotionally mature and intellectually mature, we'll go to higher level planets and we'll work with the spirit world, and even while we're in a physical body, and determine what we want to concentrate on and focus on. So it's all about, you acquire the right for more freedom. So I think that is very important for people to understand. We're not complete slaves to whatever the spirit world wants us to do. We are the major events. Yes, we are guided, and you could also use the word manipulated to go where you need to go at that particular moment in order to learn what you need to learn. But your reactions, that's all up there. That's your free will at the level we're at now. So let me continue reading. A children's choir came to present us with some beautiful children's Christmas songs and some psalms. They all dressed alike in very light yellow and were very graceful. They enjoyed singing and enchanted all who heard them. They were so happy that they radiated happiness. Lúcia, one of my students, came closer and gave me a poem he had written. The verse was simple and praised teachers in the joy of learning. Touched, I thank him. Patricia, he said, when incarnated, I was mentally retarded, an exceptional child. I passed on long ago. I recuperated slowly after being rescued. As soon as I felt better, I started to work, taking care of simple tasks. Now, this poor person who was born a special needs child was probably, he probably was some sort of suicide in the past. In fact, you'll see that a lot when they talk about people who commit suicide. They will have when they harm themselves very severely, like a shot in the head or things like that, their perispirit will have to be reformed because they will do real great harm to the perispirit. And that helps the formation of when you are in the womb. And therefore, it usually takes a life for them, that perispirit, to get back into the form of creating a normal, a human, or whatever planet you're on. So then he continues, said, my counselors insisted for me to study, yet I became interested in learning only recently. I was ashamed of my deficiencies. While incarnated, I had only heard that I was stupid without any smarts, so I suffered a lot and felt much pain. I'd been rejected, gone hungry, been cold and very sick. I was an adult when I passed away. Everything is so different here. I love the colony, and I sense I wasn't disabled in other lives. Still, I don't want to remember the past. I'm afraid. The counselor told me that I'm like a green fruit, not prepared, not ready to remember the past. I honestly don't want to remember, so I have to learn everything all over again, but now I do it with pleasure. Again, this is a great revelation about the spirit world. People go, well, when you die, don't you remember all your past lives? Or even people tell me on earth, like, how can I know how to be better if I know my past lives? Well, take this person as an example. If he understood his past life, he would see probably something he had done so horrible, it would have stricken him quite like a tsunami emotionally. It could just really hurt that poor guy. And therefore, he does not want to remember his past life, and the spirit world respects that and probably encourages him kind of start over. And that is what happens when you're in the spirit world if you pass over. When you are ready, you will start remembering your past lives, not before. The sad fact is we have done horrible things in our past lives, and you will feel very regretful about it. I was talking to one person who told me about his past life regression. And he said, you know, my past life regression, I kept seeing like I was a Native American, and I kept seeing different ways I was killed. One time I was a squaw and I was holding my baby, and an arrow killed me as I was crossing the river. And another one I was attacked. It was one death after another. And he kind of laughed, and I kind of laughed, and I kind of said, well, all those ways you died, those were payback time, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, you had killed other people in the same manner. He goes, yeah, I know. And I think this guy was Australian. It's really great sense of humor. So be prepared. I don't encourage people to do past lives regression because you are learning what you need to learn. And you don't need to know everything. Believe me, the spirit world is so brilliant. You will be set, and I hate to use the word, but manipulated really effectively to learn what you need to learn to cast off those primitive emotions. As long as you keep an open mind and try and follow your conscience. The key is Follow your conscience and keep love at the forefront of every decision. So Lúcia walked away and left me thinking. Mrs. Dearsey was nearby, and noticing how deep in thought I was, she approached me and asked, "Why are you so thoughtful?" Well, Lucio told me he was an exceptional child when incarnated. He feels he used to be intelligent, but doesn't want to remember the past. He prefers to learn all over again. Well, then Mrs. Dearsey told her, "Patricia, no person is retarded without a reason, and the reasons might be numerous. Lucio doesn't want to recall his past because he's afraid. Usually these deficiencies have their origins in the abuse of a brilliant intellect. That is why over here we're careful not to make recollection of the past a painful experience nor an obstacle to spiritual growth. The past is gone and we can't change it. We can build the present and the future. If Lucio wanted to remember, the responsible department would study his case and would help him to remember, but only if it was for his own good. Many spirits are too mature for this experience. Remembering his past could help him to enrich his knowledge if he was educated and evolved." Then Patricia said, "But he has difficulty to learn." And as Miss Dearsey said, "But he hasn't been able to free himself completely from his deficiencies yet. But he's learning and not only improving himself intellectually, since gospel lessons are also being fixated in his mind, forcing him to re-educate himself." Now, again, this shows you we're all created equal in spirit world. Mrs. Dearsey is saying he's having a hard time to learn because he still thinks he has a hard time to learn, not because there's any physical defect there. It's emotional, right? His emotions are everything. So then Patricia wrote, "My pupils offered me many hugs and many thanks, plus a bouquet of flowers. I was very touched. The party was great. Christmas was coming, and it had always been a big holiday for me, although my father always warned us that dates were not important and that Christmas had become a mental occasion, or actually a material occasion to most people. It was the first time I would spend Christmas as a discarnate, and I was very curious." And that is the end of the chapter. So I hope everyone has enjoyed that, and thanks for people who commented. I am back. It's just been a while getting moving and getting the internet working, and I should hopefully be back on Tuesday night too. So again, Tuesdays and Sundays I'll try and stream. I may take some other time in December off, but I try to get into the habit of this. Please again, hit the like button, subscribe, share this video, tell your friends about Spiritism. I know it's strange, and of course, like what I do is I never like say, "Hey, I want to talk about this." I always let the conversation go, and I'll make hints about reincarnation and the spirit world. And if they're not picked up, I let it go. Many people aren't ready for that. So it's not that we tell people, "Oh, you have to believe or you're in trouble." No. It will all be taken care of in time. Hopefully, my aim is I put the information before you, show you where you can pick it up, and let you learn on your own, because really this is what's important for you, the more you understand the spirit world and the greatness and the marvelous of it, and just the otherworldly. I mean, what science fiction or fantasy novels have you read where people create everything with their mind? Everyone. And of course, that is impossible, because if we lived on Earth where everyone could create with their mind, it would be total chaos, right? It would be death and destruction and all that. That's why we have to go through this learning, so we all are at the same mental wavelengths of being kind and nice and caring and loving and fraternal and charitable people. That's why we go through this tough incarnations on Earth, because the power we will have in the future will be tremendous. We will help guide whole planets and humanities. So anyway, I'll leave you there, and I want to say, again, if you're interested, you can read my series of books, Heaven and Below. Book 1. Book 2 is Spirits in the Spirit Universe, and Book 3 is How We Are Guided by Spirits. Plus, I have all this in audio books, and of course, read the Spirits book by Alan Kardec. You can get that in PDF. I also have a book, before I leave, that I have it on PDF, which I would recommend people to read if you are not familiar with Spiritism and you want to get a good introduction to it. I have this book, Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation. Let me bring that up. I'm sorry, it's taking me a while here. I have that on PDF, which you can download on my site right here. You can download it for free. It's on PDF. Of course, you can get it on Kindle, and it's on Audible too, and paperback if you wish. But if you want it in the PDF version, I have that. I also have this version, thanks to one of our great listeners. It's in French. So if you know someone who's French and wants to know about Spiritism, please tell them they can download it. It's right on the right-hand navigation bar of my blog, nwspiritism.com. And thanks for everyone for the comments. And I want to say God bless and God bless everyone.